Hi there. Welcome to Melted Stone, this spot for stories that grab you and won't let you go. If you love drama, surprises, and moments that make you say, no way, you're in the right place. Subscribe and dive into tales full of twists, bold moves, and endings you'll remember. This is Melted Stone. Hit the bell and let's get the story rolling.
This? This? This isn't mine.
The DVD fell out of the Amazon package like a confession waiting to happen. I stood there in my driveway, holding what should have been my new coding textbook, staring at a homemade disc labeled, "How was the taste of Judges Johnson?" in Emma's handwriting. The delivery guy, Carl, was still standing there with that knowing smirk plastered across his weathered face. "Wrong package again, Nathan," he said, not moving to take it back. "Third time this month." You'd think Amazon would get their act together. But Carl wasn't looking at me like this was an accident. He was looking at me like I had just won the lottery and didn't know it yet. "What's on it?" I asked, though something in my gut already knew. Carl shrugged. "Home movies. Your wife's quite the director." The words hit me like ice water. Emma, my wife of 8 years, the woman who'd been working late at the office 3 nights a week for the past 6 months, the woman who'd joined that new gym and came home smelling like someone else's cologne. I thanked Carl and watched him drive away, then stood there in the October chill, turning the disc over in my hands. The smart thing would have been to throw it away. The smart thing would have been to trust my wife. The smart thing would have been to walk back into our perfect suburban house and pretend I'd never seen it. But I'd been doing the smart thing for 34 years, and where it had gotten me. I went inside and slid the disc into my laptop. The timestamp showed last Tuesday, 7:43 p.m. I remembered that night. Emma had texted me she was stuck in a client meeting. I'd eaten dinner alone, watched Netflix alone, gone to bed alone. The video started with our security camera feed from the living room. There was Emma, all right. And there was Travis, her personal trainer, the guy she'd been raving about for months, the guy who'd finally gotten her motivated to take care of herself. They weren't working out. I watched my wife of 8 years climb on top of another man in the living room I'd painted last spring, on the couch we'd picked out together, under the wedding photos I'd carefully arranged on the mantle. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was listening to them talk afterward. "God, he has no idea," Emma said, adjusting her sports bra. "He's so trusting, it's almost pathetic." Travis laughed, the sound echoing off our hardwood floors. "What's he gonna do?" "Nathan's about as threatening as a golden retriever." "He won't do anything," Emma said with certainty. "He's too soft, too scared of confrontation, too scared of losing what he thinks he has." I paused the video and stared at the screen. Too soft, too scared, too pathetic. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was all those things. But as I sat there in my home office, watching my marriage dissolve in high definition, I realized something. Soft didn't mean stupid. Scared didn't mean helpless. And pathetic didn't mean powerless. I ejected the disc and walked to the kitchen where Emma was making her protein shake. She looked up at me with those green eyes that used to make my heart race. "Hey, honey," she said, all sunshine and innocence. "How was your day?" "Interesting," I said, holding up the disc. "Want to tell me about Tuesday night?" For just a second, her mask slipped. I saw the flash of panic quickly replaced by confusion, then indignation. "What is that?" she asked. "You tell me. It's got your handwriting on it." Emma set down her shake and crossed her arms. "Nathan, I have no idea what you're talking about. Where did you even get that?" "It was delivered here." Addressed to me. "Well, I didn't send it." Her voice was rising now, taking on that edge she used when she was about to go on the offensive. "And I don't appreciate being accused of something based on some random disc that could contain anything. So you're saying if I play this right now, I won't see you and Travis in our living room?" Emma's face went white, then red. "You're spying on me now? Recording me in my own home?" "It's from our security camera, Emma, the one you helped me install." "I don't care where it's from. The fact that you're using it to spy on me is disgusting." "What kind of husband does that?" And there it was, the classic Emma maneuver. Turn the tables. Make me the villain. Make me question my own reality. "The kind whose wife is cheating on him," I said quietly. Emma's eyes flashed with something I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. "You know what, Nathan? Yes, I'm seeing Travis. And you know what? I'm glad you found out." because living with you has been suffocating me for years. The words should have hurt more than they did. Instead, I felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. Is that right? I said. Yes, that's right. You're boring, Nathan. You're predictable. You're safe and comfortable and boring, and I'm tired of pretending that's enough. I nodded slowly. Well, I appreciate the honesty. Emma blinked, clearly expecting more of a reaction. That's it? That's all you have to say? For now, I said. I think I need some air. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Emma, you might want to be careful about that security camera. You never know who might be watching. I left her standing there and went for a drive. I needed to think. I needed to plan. Because Emma was right about one thing. I was soft. I was predictable. I was safe. But she was wrong about something else. I wasn't stupid, and I wasn't going to just roll over and let her destroy 8 years of my life without consequences. I drove to the Home Depot and bought a new laptop, paid cash. Then I drove to the library and set up a new email account. Anonymous. Untraceable. I had some research to do. By the time I got home, Emma was gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at my sister's tonight. We'll talk when you've calmed down. I crumpled up the note and tossed it in the trash. Then I went to my office and got to work. The first thing I did was copy all the security footage from the past 6 months. Our system automatically backed up to the cloud, and I had full access. I found 17 different occasions where Emma and Travis had been in our house together. Sometimes they just talked. Sometimes they did more than talk. But it was the conversations that interested me most. The ones where they talked about their plans.
He's so naive, Emma said on one video from 3 weeks ago.
He still thinks this is just about getting in shape. When are you going to tell him? Travis asked. I'm not. I'm going to let him figure it out on his own. It'll be easier that way. Less confrontation. And then what? Then I take half of everything and start over, with someone who actually has ambition. Travis laughed. You think he'll fight you on it? Nathan, please. He'll probably apologize for making me unhappy. I saved that video to 3 different hard drives. Then I started researching divorce law in our state. Community property, adultery clauses, asset division. I'd always been good at research. It was part of my job as a software engineer. But I'd never been more motivated to understand a topic than I was right now. The next morning, Emma came home with coffee and bagels, like nothing had happened. I think we should talk, she said, settling into the chair across from me at the kitchen table. I think we should too, I said. Nathan, I want you to know that what happened with Travis, it wasn't planned. We just connected and things got complicated. I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. How long? What do you mean? How long have you been sleeping with him? Emma shifted uncomfortably. It's not just about sex, Nathan. We have a real connection. Something I haven't felt in years. How long, Emma? About 6 months. I'd known the answer before I asked, but hearing her say it still hit me like a punch to the gut. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of coming home to a stranger who kissed me goodnight and asked about my day while planning her escape. I see, I said. I think maybe we should consider a separation, Emma said, just temporarily, to give us both some space to figure out what we want. What you want, you mean. What we both want, she corrected. Nathan, you have to admit this hasn't been working for a while. We're like roommates more than spouses. I thought we were partners. Emma reached across the table and touched my hand. We were. But people change. People grow apart. Doesn't mean we're bad people. I looked down at her hand on mine. The hand that had been touching another man. The hand that had worn my ring while betraying everything we'd built together. You're right, I said. People do change. Emma smiled, clearly relieved. So you're okay with a separation? I think it's probably for the best, I said, under the circumstances. What circumstances? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. It was a text message from an unknown number, containing a photo of her and Travis in a restaurant downtown. The timestamp showed yesterday afternoon. Someone's been watching us, I said, both of us. Emma's face went pale. Who would do that? I don't know. But they seem to know a lot about your relationship with Travis. Nathan, I can explain. You don't need to explain anything to me anymore, Emma. You've made your choice. I'm just letting you know that choices have consequences. Emma stared at me like she'd never seen me before. What's that supposed to mean? It means you might want to be more careful about where you conduct your business. Not everyone is as understanding as I am. I stood up and headed for the door. I'll be staying at Mike's for a few days. Give you some space to think about what you want. Nathan, wait! But I was already gone. Mike Thompson had been my best friend since college. He was also a divorce attorney, which made him the perfect person to crash with. His guest room smelled like beer and old pizza, but it was better than staying in that house with Emma. So she's been cheating for 6 months, Mike said, cracking open a beer. And you have video evidence? 17 different occasions, I confirmed. And she wants a separation. She wants a separation so she can be with Travis without the guilt. Mike nodded. Classic. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. Keep the house, keep the lifestyle, keep the security, but sleep with the trainer. That's about the size of it. So what do you want to do? I took a long sip of my beer. I want to make sure she doesn't get away with it. Nathan, I've got to warn you. Revenge is expensive, and it's not always satisfying. I'm not talking about revenge, I said. I'm talking about justice. Mike studied my face. What's the difference? Revenge is emotional. Justice is strategic. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the courthouse. I spent 3 hours in the records office, researching property law and divorce proceedings. Then I spent another 2 hours at the bank, documenting all our joint assets and financial accounts. Emma had been busy while I was gone. She'd moved half our savings into a new account, an account I didn't have access to. An account that Travis also had access to, according to the signature cards. I took pictures of everything. Then I went to see a lawyer, not Mike. He was too close to the situation. I needed someone who could be objective. Helen Walsh was a pit bull in a power suit. She'd been practicing family law for 20 years and had a reputation for getting results. Your wife is moving assets, she said, reviewing my documentation. That's not illegal during a marriage, but it can be problematic in a divorce. What can we do about it? We can file for divorce first, get ahead of her. Make sure the assets are frozen before she can move more of them. Do it. Nathan, are you sure? Once we file, there's no going back. She already made that choice for me. Helen nodded. I'll have the papers ready by tomorrow afternoon. I spent the rest of the day setting up surveillance. Not on Emma. I already had everything I needed from her. On Travis. I wanted to know who he was, what he wanted, and what he was getting out of this situation besides sex with my wife. Travis Mitchell was 28 years old. He'd been working at Platinum Fitness for 8 months. Before that, he'd been a personal trainer at 3 other gyms in the area. He'd been fired from 2 of them for inappropriate relationships with clients. He drove a leased BMW that he couldn't afford and lived in a studio apartment that cost more than most people's mortgages. He was also married. Jennifer Mitchell was a nurse at the Children's Hospital. She worked the night shift, which explained why Travis had so much freedom to pursue other women. According to her social media, she thought she was married to a devoted husband who was building a career in fitness management. I felt sorry for Jennifer. She was about to learn the same lesson I had. But first, I needed to deal with Emma. I went back to the house that evening. Emma was in the living room, drinking wine and talking on the phone. She looked up when I walked in. I have to go, she said into the phone. Nathan's here. She hung up and looked at me expectantly. How was your day? Productive, I said. I've been thinking about what you said. About the separation. Emma's face lit up. And? I think you're right. We should make it official. Official? I handed her the divorce papers. I filed this morning. Emma's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. Red wine spread across the boards like blood. You what? I filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and adultery. Nathan, you can't just, I can, and I did. You'll notice that I've also filed for a restraining order against Travis. He's no longer allowed on this property. Emma's face went from shocked to furious. You have no right to do that. I have every right. This is my house too, Emma, at least until the divorce is final. This is insane. You're acting like a crazy person. I'm acting like someone who's tired of being lied to. Emma stood up, her hands shaking. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've got it all figured out? I think I've got a pretty good handle on the situation. Well, you don't know everything, Nathan. You don't know about the pregnancy. The words hit me like a physical blow. What pregnancy? I'm 8 weeks pregnant, Nathan, and it's not yours. I stared at her, feeling the room spin slightly. You're lying. I'm not lying. I was going to tell you after the separation. Make it easier. Easier for who? For everyone. You can have your divorce, Nathan. You can have your wounded pride and your victim complex, but I'm having Travis's baby, and there's nothing you can do about it. I sat down heavily on the couch. The same couch where I'd watched her betray me. The same couch where she'd laughed about how pathetic I was. How long have you known? I asked. 2 weeks? And you didn't think to tell me? What was the point? It's not your baby. But I'm still your husband. Emma laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Not for long. I looked at her, standing there in the ruins of our marriage, pregnant with another man's child, and felt something inside me break. Not my heart. That had already been broken. Something deeper. Something that had been holding me back. You know what, Emma? I said quietly. You're right. I am soft. I am predictable. I am safe. Finally, some honesty. But you made one mistake. What's that? You confuse soft with weak. You confuse predictable with stupid. You confuse safe with helpless. Emma's smile faltered. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you've been stealing from our joint accounts. I'm talking about the fact that Travis is married. I'm talking about the fact that you've been conducting your affair in our home, on our security system, and I have every second of it documented. Nathan, I'm talking about the fact that you just admitted to being pregnant with another man's child, while married to me, which makes this not just adultery, but fraud. Emma's face went white. You're recording this conversation. I'm always recording now, Emma. I learned that from you. She looked around the room wildly, as if she could spot the hidden cameras. You can't do this. You can't use private conversations in court. Actually, I can. This is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's legal. You're insane. I'm thorough. There's a difference. Emma grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I'm leaving. I'm going to stay with Travis. That's probably not a good idea. Why? Because I called Jennifer Mitchell about an hour ago, Travis's wife. She's waiting for him at home, with a suitcase and divorce papers. Emma stopped at the door. You didn't. I did. Turns out she's been suspicious for months. She just needed proof. I was happy to provide it. You son of a bitch. Now, Emma, is that any way to talk to your husband? She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I heard her car start and screech out of the driveway. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and started planning my next move. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Emma tried to claim half of everything, but the evidence of her affair and the financial manipulation made her case weak. She tried to claim I was unstable, but the recordings showed otherwise. She tried to claim I was stalking her, but the security footage was from our own home. Travis lost his job at the gym. Word spread quickly about his affairs with married clients. Jennifer took half of his assets and moved back to her hometown. The BMW was repossessed. Emma moved in with her sister, who was less than thrilled about the situation. Her sister's husband, Jerry, had never liked Emma, and having a pregnant, divorced woman living in his house was not his idea of a good time. But I wasn't done yet. I started working on my next project, Carl, the delivery driver. Carl had been delivering packages to our neighborhood for 3 years. He knew everyone's business, everyone's schedule, everyone's secrets. He also had a side business that not everyone knew about. Carl was selling information. Photos, delivery schedules, personal details. He was the one who'd been taking pictures of Emma and Travis. He was the one who'd been providing information to whoever was paying for it. And he'd been selling information about me, too. I found out about Carl's business through a private investigator I'd hired. PI work was surprisingly affordable when you knew what you were looking for. And Carl was sloppy. He kept records, he had client lists, he had photo archives. He also had a lot of very interested customers. Insurance companies, divorce attorneys. private investigators, people who needed information about their neighbors but didn't want to get their hands dirty. Carl was about to become very busy. I set up a meeting with Carl at a diner downtown. He showed up in his UPS uniform, looking nervous. "What can I do for you, Nathan?" he asked. "I know about your side business," I said. Carl's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. You've been selling information about the people on your route. Photos, schedules, personal details. It's actually pretty clever." "Nathan, I think you might be confused." "I'm not confused, Carl. I'm actually impressed. It takes real entrepreneurial spirit to turn a delivery job into a surveillance operation." Carl shifted uncomfortably. "What do you want?" "I want to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "I want to buy your business." Carl blinked. "You want to what?" "I want to buy your client list, your photo archives, your delivery schedules, everything." "Why would you want that?" "Because I'm starting a new business, and I need information." "What kind of business?" "The kind that helps people find out what their spouses are really doing." Carl stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. "How much?" $50,000. Cash? Cash. Done. I bought Carl's business on a Tuesday. By Friday, I had everything I needed. Client lists, photo archives, delivery schedules for the entire neighborhood. I also had something else, a complete dossier on every household in our subdivision. The Hendersons were having marriage problems. The Johnsons were behind on their mortgage. The Williamses were dealing with a drug problem with their teenage son. The Garcias were having an affair with each other's best friends. Our quiet suburban neighborhood was a soap opera, and I had the entire script. But I wasn't interested in exploiting my neighbors. I was interested in one person, Emma's boss, Patricia Crane. Patricia was the HR director at the marketing firm where Emma worked. She was also the person who'd been covering for Emma's extended lunch breaks and mysterious afternoon appointments. She was also the person who'd given Emma the promotion that came with a 30% raise. Patricia was also having an affair with the company's CEO, Richard Brennan. Richard was married to a woman named Susan who owned half the company. Richard was also about to be very surprised by what his wife was going to learn about his relationship with Patricia. I spent a week documenting Patricia and Richard's affair. They met at the same hotel every Tuesday and Thursday. They used the same room. They had the same routine. They were predictable, just like Emma said I was. On a Thursday afternoon, I called Susan Brennan and asked if I could meet with her about a business matter. She agreed to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. Susan was a sharp woman in her 50s. She'd built her marketing company from the ground up, and she didn't suffer fools gladly. "Mr. Parker," she said, shaking my hand, "what can I do for you?" "I have some information about your company that I think you should know." "What kind of information?" I slid a folder across the table. "The kind that could affect your business operations." Susan opened the folder and looked at the photographs inside. Her face didn't change, but I could see her jaw tighten. "Where did you get these?" she asked quietly. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." "Let's just say I have a reliable source." Susan closed the folder. "What do you want?" "I want Emma Parker fired." "That's it?" "That's it." Susan studied my face. "This is about your divorce. This is about accountability. Mr. Parker, I can't fire someone just because you're going through a divorce. You can fire someone for having an affair with your husband. That's Patricia, not Emma. You can fire someone for covering up that affair, for lying about their whereabouts, for using company time to facilitate personal relationships." Susan nodded slowly. "I see. Emma has been using her position to help Patricia cover up her affair with your husband. She's been lying on timesheets, providing false alibis, and manipulating schedules. That's grounds for termination." "And you have proof of this?" "I have phone records, schedule modifications, and witness statements." Susan reopened the folder and studied the contents more carefully. "This is very thorough work. I'm a thorough person." "Yes, you are." Susan closed the folder and looked at me. "Emma will be terminated by the end of the week. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get messy." "Messy how?" "Richard's not going to go quietly. And Patricia's going to fight back. This is going to be a war." I smiled. I've been preparing for war for months. Emma was fired on a Friday afternoon. She called me screaming before she even made it to her car. "You son of a bitch," she shouted into the phone. "You got me fired." "I didn't get you fired, Emma. You got yourself fired. This is about revenge." This is about you being a bitter, pathetic man who can't handle rejection. This is about consequences, Emma. Actions have consequences. You're going to pay for this, Nathan. I'm going to make sure you pay for this. I'm looking forward to it. Emma hung up, but she called back 20 minutes later. This time, she was crying. Nathan, please. I'm pregnant. I need this job. I need the insurance. You should have thought about that before you decided to have an affair. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry about everything. It's too late for sorry, Emma. It's not too late. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work this out. Emma, you're pregnant with another man's child. There's nothing to work out. I'll get an abortion. I'll end it. We can start over. The words hit me like a physical blow. You'd kill your baby to get your job back? It's not a baby, Nathan. It's a mistake. A mistake I'm willing to fix. Don't call me again, I said and hung up. But Emma did call again, and again, and again. She called from different numbers, sent emails, showed up at my workplace. She was desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. The restraining order was granted on a Tuesday. Emma was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. She was also ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation. The evaluation didn't go well. Emma was found to be suffering from acute stress disorder with narcissistic tendencies. She was required to attend weekly therapy sessions and take medication. Travis, meanwhile, had disappeared. He'd left town without telling anyone where he was going. He'd abandoned his lease, his car payments, and his responsibilities. He'd also abandoned Emma. Emma's sister Margaret called me 2 weeks later. Nathan, I need to talk to you, she said. I don't think that's a good idea, Margaret. Please, it's about Emma. We met at a neutral location, a park downtown. Margaret looked exhausted. She's not doing well, Margaret said. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. She's just sitting in her room staring at the wall. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Are you really sorry? I thought about it. I'm sorry that she's suffering. I'm not sorry that she's facing consequences. Nathan, she's pregnant. She's alone. She's lost her job, her husband, her home. How much more punishment does she need? I didn't punish her, Margaret. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences of her actions. There's a difference? There's a big difference. Margaret stared at me. What happened to you? You used to be such a kind person. I'm still kind, Margaret. I'm just not naive anymore. This isn't you, Nathan. This isn't who you are. Actually, it is me. It's just a part of me that Emma never bothered to get to know. Margaret shook her head. I don't recognize you anymore. I don't recognize her anymore either. So we're even. Emma's therapy sessions were court-ordered, but they were also recorded. As part of the divorce proceedings, I had access to the transcripts. Emma was surprisingly honest with her therapist about her motivations and her plans. I never loved Nathan, she said during one session. I married him because he was safe, because he was predictable, because I knew he'd never leave me or hurt me. And now, the therapist asked? Now I realize that safety is just another word for boring. Predictability is just another word for weak. I wanted excitement. I wanted passion. I wanted to feel alive. And Travis made you feel alive? Travis made me feel like a woman. Nathan made me feel like a roommate. Do you think Nathan deserved to be betrayed? Emma was quiet for a long moment. Nathan deserved to be with someone who loved him. I deserved to be with someone who excited me. We were both settling. But you made the choice to have an affair instead of ending the marriage. I was trying to have both. I was trying to keep the security of marriage while having the excitement of an affair. I know it was wrong, but I wasn't ready to give up everything. And now? Now I've lost everything anyway. And Nathan's turned into someone I don't recognize. How so? He's cold, he's calculating, he's ruthless. He's everything I thought he wasn't. Maybe he was always those things, and you just never gave him a reason to show them. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. The divorce was finalized on a cold Tuesday in March. Emma got the minimum allowed by law, 20% of our assets and no alimony. She also got full custody of her unborn child, which was fine by me. I got the house, the cars, the investments, and my freedom. I also got something else. A new understanding of who I was and what I was capable of. The day the divorce was final, I went to Emma's sister's house, not to see Emma, but to see Margaret. I want to give you something, I said, handing her an envelope. What is it? A check. For Emma. For the baby. Margaret opened the envelope and stared at the check. Nathan, this is $20,000. I know. Why? Because the baby didn't ask for any of this. And despite everything, I'm not heartless. Margaret looked at me with tears in her eyes. Thank you. There's one condition. What? She never contacts me again. Ever. For any reason. I understand. And Margaret, make sure she gets help. Real help. Not just therapy. She needs to understand that actions have consequences, that other people have feelings, that the world doesn't revolve around her. Margaret nodded. I'll try. Don't try. Do it. Because if she ever comes near me again, I won't be as generous. I left Margaret standing on her porch holding the check and drove away. I had a new life to build, and I was looking forward to it. 6 months later, I was living in a new house across town. I had a new job with a tech startup. I had a new outlook on life. I was still soft, still predictable, still safe, but I was also something else. I was free. I ran into Carl at the grocery store one day. He was still delivering packages, but he looked different, happier. Nathan, he said, approaching me in the produce section. How are you doing? Good, I said. Really good. How's the delivery business? Same as always, but I wanted to thank you. For what? For buying my side business. That money changed my life. I paid off my debts, bought a house, got married. You got married? Carl grinned. Jennifer Mitchell, Travis's ex-wife. We met at a divorce support group. Turns out we had a lot in common. I laughed. That's poetic justice. It's more than that. It's happiness. Something I didn't think I'd find again. I'm glad for you, Carl. What about you? Are you seeing anyone? I'm dating myself right now, learning who I am when I'm not trying to be what someone else wants. That's probably smart. It's definitely smart. Carl studied my face. You seem different. Calmer. I am different. I'm not angry anymore. What changed? I realized that Emma was right about one thing. I was living a safe, predictable life. But she was wrong about why that was a problem. What do you mean? She thought safe and predictable were weaknesses. But they're not. They're choices. And when you choose to be safe and predictable, you're not weak, you're prepared. Carl nodded. Prepared for what? For whatever comes next. I never saw Emma again. I heard through Margaret that she'd moved to another state, had her baby, and was working as a receptionist at a dental office. I heard that she'd named the baby David after her father. I heard that she was in therapy and taking medication and trying to build a new life. I hoped she was happy. I really did. Not because I loved her anymore, but because I wanted her to learn from her mistakes. I wanted her to become a better person. I wanted her to be the kind of mother her child deserved. But mostly, I didn't think about her at all. I thought about my new life, my new job, my new house, my new understanding of who I was and what I was capable of. I thought about the fact that I'd been called soft, predictable, and safe. And I thought about how I'd proven that those weren't weaknesses at all. They were weapons. 2 years later, I was sitting in my new office at the tech startup when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was familiar. It was from Emma's new city. Nathan Parker, I answered. Nathan, it's Margaret. I leaned back in my chair. Hi, Margaret. How are you? I'm calling about Emma. Is she okay? She's in the hospital. She was in a car accident. She's going to be fine, but what? She asked me to call you. She wants to see you. I was quiet for a long moment. Why? She says she needs to apologize. She says she needs to make things right. Margaret, we're divorced. We've been divorced for 2 years. There's nothing to make right. Nathan, please. She's been doing really well. She's been clean and sober. She's been going to therapy. She's been taking care of David. But this accident, it scared her. She realizes how precious life is. I'm glad she's doing well. I really am. But I don't need an apology from Emma. Maybe she needs to give one. I thought about it. How's the baby? David's fine. He's 2 now. He's beautiful, Nathan. He looks just like Travis. Yes. Is Emma raising him alone? Yes. Travis never came back. Never even sent money. Emma's been doing it all herself. I felt a familiar stab of something. Not love, not attraction, but something that had always been my weakness. compassion. What hospital? I asked. 3 days later, I was standing outside Emma's hospital room holding a small gift bag. I'd driven 6 hours to get there, and I still wasn't sure why. I knocked on the door and heard Emma's voice. Come in. Emma was sitting up in bed, her left arm in a cast, a bandage across her forehead. She looked older, thinner, but there was something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Humility. Nathan, she said quietly, you came. Margaret said you wanted to apologize. I do. But first, I want you to meet someone. A toddler with dark hair and bright green eyes peeked around the corner of the bed. He was holding a toy truck and staring at me with curiosity. David, this is Nathan, Emma said gently. He's an old friend of Mommy's. David waved shyly and went back to playing with his truck. He's beautiful, I said, and meant it. He is. Emma's voice was soft. Nathan, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you that I'm sorry. Emma, no, please. Let me say this. I've been practicing for 2 years. I sat down in the chair next to her bed. Okay. Emma took a deep breath. I'm sorry for betraying you. I'm sorry for lying to you. I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't enough. I'm sorry for taking your kindness for weakness and your love for granted. Emma, I'm sorry for trying to destroy you when you fought back. I'm sorry for calling you pathetic and weak and boring. I'm sorry for everything I put you through. I looked at her lying there in that hospital bed, vulnerable and broken, and felt the last of my anger drain away. I forgive you, I said. Emma started crying. You do? I do. But Emma, I need you to understand something. What? I forgive you, but I'm not going back. What we had is over. It's been over for a long time. I know, she whispered. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm asking you to forgive me so I can forgive myself. You don't need my permission to forgive yourself. Yes, I do. Because what I did to you, it wasn't just wrong. It was evil. And I need to know that you're okay. I need to know that I didn't break you. I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 8 years. This woman who'd betrayed me and tried to destroy me. This woman who was now a mother trying to build a better life for her child. You didn't break me, Emma. You revealed me. What do you mean? I mean that everything you put me through showed me who I really was, showed me what I was capable of, showed me that I was stronger than I thought. Emma nodded through her tears. You were always strong, Nathan. I was just too selfish to see it. Maybe, but I didn't see it either until you forced me to. So you're okay? You're happy? I'm better than okay. I'm free. Emma smiled through her tears. Good. You deserve to be free. You deserve to be happy. I reached into the gift bag and pulled out a small wrapped package. This is for David. Emma unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a children's book, The Little Engine That Could. Thank you, she said, but why this book? Because it's about believing in yourself, even when everyone else says you can't do something. It's about being underestimated and proving them wrong. Emma laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. That sounds familiar. I thought it might. I stood up to leave, then turned back. Emma? Yes? Be a good mother. David deserves that. I will, I promise. And Emma, don't contact me again. This is goodbye. I understand. I walked to the door, then stopped. One more thing. What? They called me broken. You called me broken. But I wasn't the one who broke. I was the one who broke them all. Emma stared at me, understanding finally dawning in her eyes. Nathan. Take care of yourself, Emma. Take care of your son. I left the hospital and drove home to my new life. I had a business to run, friends to see, a future to build. I had learned something important in that hospital room. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It wasn't about going back. It was about letting go. I was finally, completely, utterly free. 6 months later, I was at a coffee shop downtown when a woman approached my table. She was tall, blonde, confident, everything Emma had tried to be but never was. Excuse me, she said. Are you Nathan Parker? I am. I'm Sarah Williams. I'm a reporter with the city paper. I'm working on a story about divorce and revenge, and your name came up. I gestured to the empty chair across from me. Sit down. Sarah sat and pulled out a notebook. I've been talking to people about your divorce from Emma Parker. Some people say you destroyed her life. Some people would be wrong. How so? I didn't destroy her life. I simply stopped helping her maintain the illusion that actions don't have consequences. Sarah scribbled notes. But you did get her fired. You did expose her affair. You did cost her friends, her reputation, her marriage. I documented the truth. Other people made decisions based on that truth. Don't you think you went too far? I thought about the question. Sarah, let me ask you something. If someone betrayed you, lied to you, stole from you, and tried to destroy you and you fought back, what would you do? I don't know. I do. You'd do exactly what I did. You'd fight back. You'd protect yourself. You'd make sure they couldn't hurt you again. But, but nothing. Emma made choices. I made choices. The difference is my choices were reactions to her choices. She started the war. I just finished it. Sarah closed her notebook. For the record, are you sorry for anything you did? I'm sorry it was necessary. I'm sorry Emma forced me to become someone I didn't want to be. I'm sorry a marriage that could have been beautiful became a battlefield. But you're not sorry for fighting back. Not for a second. Sarah stood to leave, then turned back. One last question. If you could go back, would you do anything differently? I thought about Emma in that hospital bed, about David with his toy truck, about the years I'd spent being safe and predictable and kind. Yes, I said. I'd have fought back sooner. After Sarah left, I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, thinking about the stories she was going to write, thinking about how I'd be portrayed, thinking about whether I cared. I didn't. The truth was, I'd become exactly who I needed to become. I'd learned that kindness without strength was weakness, that trust without verification was foolishness, that love without respect was slavery. I'd learned that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them. And when someone tries to destroy you, you should destroy them back. Not out of hatred, not out of revenge, but out of self-preservation. Emma had called me soft. She'd called me weak. She'd called me broken. But in the end, I was the one still standing. I was the one who'd built a new life. I was the one who'd won. They'd called me broken until I broke them all, and I wasn't sorry for any of it. 3 years later, I was married again. Her name was Rachel, and she was nothing like Emma. She was honest, loyal, strong. She was a partner, not a project. She was someone who saw my strength instead of my softness, my intelligence instead of my predictability, my depth instead of my safety. On our wedding day, as we exchanged vows, I thought about the journey that had brought me there. The betrayal, the pain, the anger, the revenge, the forgiveness, the freedom, all of it had been necessary. All of it had been worth it. Because it had led me here, to this moment, to this woman, to this new life. Emma had been right about one thing. I had been living a safe, predictable life, but she'd been wrong about why that was a problem. It wasn't a problem because it was boring. It was a problem because it wasn't authentic. I'd been living the life I thought I was supposed to live instead of the life I was meant to live. Now I was living authentically, honestly, fearlessly. I was living as the man Emma's betrayal had forced me to become. Someone who was soft when appropriate, hard when necessary, and always, always honest about both. As Rachel and I kissed to seal our marriage, I thought about Emma one last time. I hope she was happy. I hope she was healthy. I hope she was a good mother to David. But mostly, I hope she'd learned the same lesson I had, that you can't destroy someone who refuses to be destroyed. You can hurt them, you can betray them, you can try to break them, but if they're stronger than you thought, smarter than you realized, and more determined than you imagined, they won't just survive, they'll thrive. And sometimes, if you're really unlucky, they'll make sure you learn that lesson too. The hard way. They'd called me broken until I broke them all. But I wasn't broken anymore. I was rebuilt. I was renewed. I was reborn. And I was finally, completely, eternally free. The end.